Hey guys, Esoteric Empress here, and today I have quite a intense subject to talk about, as always. But I just during my sleep last night, it just hit me, something just caught my mind, and when I got up, I didn't intend to do this video. Actually, I intended to talk about something else completely, which I still might. But today, I want to talk about distant sisters. And I'm not going to even put any extra subtitle onto that. It's just distant sisters. Because some of us, myself included, have generational problems with siblings, with especially sisters. And when I say sisters, I'm not just talking about black women, okay? I'm talking about your relative, your sibling, okay? Being your sister. Whether they're your half sister or you have both of the same parents, it doesn't make a difference. You still came from the same womb. Like I said before, from the same home. You shared that same space. Even if you were, especially I think if you are maternally sisters. Paternally, it's the same. It's even greater actually, because the seed came from the same thing. But either way, people look at it so technically sometimes, but for me, I think it's a big deal because the world has billions of people in it, right? And, one time ago, I just did the video talking about why more conscious people have fewer friends and stuff like that. One time ago, the world wasn't so populated, so overly populated. People were separated into their little groups and tribes and communities, and they got along for the most part, especially family, because if you fought with your family, that means, who's there to care for you and protect you? You know what I mean? If there's an enemy, who's the enemy? Who's the real enemy if your family is fighting against you or hating against you? Who's the enemy? And that's why I wanted to do this video today, because it's an important topic, and I know that I'm not the only one who has experienced this before. So now when I look back at it, my grandma and her sister, her only sister, she was one of, there were two girls, but there were like 4 or 5 boys. And so she and her sister were the only girls of the same parents. The boys were the same parents. And it is so sad, it is so tragic that both of them are deceased right now. But before they actually passed away, they had stopped speaking to each other for like well over a decade. Well over. I mean, her sister actually met a guy from Switzerland and relocated. When they got married, I would have been about maybe 12, 13 years old. And she came back once, I think a year or two after that, when their oldest brother passed away. She came back for the funeral, surprisingly. I guess she had a serious bond with him. But that was the last time any of us saw her. And it's so sad. Now, I don't know what may have taken place in their relationship to cause that. But it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing when family members act like complete enemies with each other. My grandmother passed away in 2001. But anyways, what was so absolutely uh, appalling about this whole thing is after my grandmother passed away, that was tragic for us and everything. But years later, about I'd say about over 10 years, right? My mom actually tried to find her aunt, my grandmother's sister, only sister. And she reached out, thank goodness for Facebook and the internet, social media. And knowing his name, she looked him up and found him. She sent him a message, and he contacted her. He replied to that message the same day. But the only thing, the reply was not a happy reply. The reply was like, oh, well, yes, I am so and so, your aunt's husband. However, she passed away about 8 years ago. Now, this happened, get this happened about 5 years ago when my mom contacted him, 4 to 5 years ago. So if he's saying then that she passed away about 8 years ago, that means she's been deceased for like well over 10 years and nobody knew. Nobody knew. Her own brothers and sister did not know. And she died of breast cancer, he said. And he also went on to say that she begged him not to tell us, not to tell anybody. Actually, what the hell? What the hell could you have been brewing in your heart for decades that will make you actually want to wipe yourself off the face of the earth? It leaves a big question mark in my mind. I know people have secrets. People have some dark secrets. I know some things that my grandmother told me that occurred that I may not have been able to get over. But like with time, you'd be amazed at what time does to solve problems if you're actually conscious, if you're actually seeking the light, seeking the high road, you're trying to be, bring the love still. So there was no love, actually. There was no love. There could not be love for it to go down that way. So then, leading on to the further generation topic, there's my mom and her sister. They're estranged. They're estranged as hell. And I find that absolutely ridiculous because that is also her only sister. Then there's me, the oldest daughter, the oldest child of my mother. And my sisters. We're estranged as hell. Same way. And, I'm thinking about this pattern. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this? What's going on with this pattern? Why does it keep trying to repeat itself? Now, I know for me, I talk about the secrets and stuff like that. I have never done anything but love my sisters. So, my heart is clean. My heart is empty of any kind of negativity, any kind of grudges, jealousy. I have never been jealous of anybody in my life. Look at me. Look at me. People may think like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? Dark skin, you got short, nappy locks and whatever. But guess what? I love me some me, okay? And I know I'm not the only one that does. So I don't care about the haters. I don't care. And sometimes the haters are people closest to you. Because why? They feel like they know you. They feel like they know your story. They feel like they know your personality. They feel like sometimes like they may be some way better off than you. But guess what? That's a lie. That's a lie. Some people spend their entire lives living a lie. When you spend your entire life gossiping, you spend your entire life belittling and degrading people, you spend your entire life thinking you're superior to people, to someone else, who's your own flesh and blood now. Don't forget that. When they grew up with a whole different set of morals, a whole different set of principles, a whole different set of values, then you realize, hey, I've been kidding myself. That girl is confident. She got raised with structure. She got manners and respect. She fears God. Like she's an alpha female. Some people look at me, I may not be on the 9 to 5 right now. That's not my goal. That's not my goal. I may be doing a little tough in the financial field sometimes because of my hubby being the only one that has a steady income. I do things on the side. I have an income from here to there, but it's not like how it would be if I had my own business, which is what, everybody aspires to that. But sometimes people look at that even and say, okay, well, she's broke. What can she do for me? I don't have time for this or that or whatever. That's garbage. That's garbage because money Money's an illusion, okay? If you're going to sell your soul and sell your family, sell your birthright, sell all of that for $1, that dollar may be worth more than you, in fact. Because you see, the money is not, you don't serve the money is there to serve you. So you can't look at somebody and sum them up for what they have in the bank, or, So now back to the distant topic, right? When you look at it, the dynamics of it, people a lot of times have set this thing up this way so that it has no choice but to play out that way from the get-go. From we were kids, right? Things were set up in a way that we were distant from each other. Or there would be one side of the family talking about this person, then the other side of the family talking about that person. Then they're like teaching you, you're a kid, you're in the middle of all this, like, why don't y'all just get along, man? Like, this is what is wrong with the world. The world has forgotten family. We're all family in the world, but then, there are those of us, we are raised together. We are, flesh and blood. And for me, like I said, the dynamics have been set that way for a long time. So it's nothing that I'm not used to. It's nothing that I'm going to like tear my heart out and be like, oh my God. I am my team. You see, I don't, I walk alone. You remember that song? I walk alone. Who sang that? Green Day. ah, ah. That was my jam, So my message here is to like say to those people who may have the same problem going on in their lives, like, do you. And I am all about love. I'm wearing my red shirt today, but this red is actually not really for just, romantic love. This is for passion, because I'm passionate about what I'm talking about today. My kids, I don't want to see them going down this road. We try to tell them, like, this is the only other person you have closest to you, next to your parents, that is going to care for you, that's going to understand where you came from, that's going to understand, what you are going through from day to day, because you live in the same home, you live the same type of life together. But when you have them separated, this is why when you tear them apart from each other, the parents, actually, when you tear them apart from each other, like what happened with my grandmother and her sister, I mean, life actually happened. That was not done on purpose just to separate them, but it is what it is. It still ended up the way it ended up because they have to learn about life on their own. Now, some people value family and some people don't. Some people, like for me, I grew up in a home where, we were still distant from certain people because, like I said, about certain factors that come into play. When you're looking at it, my grandmother, she wasn't able to walk for a long time. She had rheumatoid arthritis and stuff. So people always thought like of her as like, needing help, basically, which she did. But she was still a very independent person. And this is the reason why so many people still respected her, still loved her, still came around, because they knew she was not that person to be a burden on anybody. She was not going to beg you for anything. Trust me. And that's where I get my tenacity. That's where I get all of my confidence from. And sometimes the pride and stuff comes from that woman. Okay? And for anybody who may feel this, I'm just going to put this out here right now, on the airwaves. If you feel like, I have done something to offend you or anything like that, I'm the type of person, I like to talk it out. Even if we have to argue or whatever, I'm never gonna fight you. That's never gonna happen. But if you don't want to, that's fine also. I'm gonna live quite abundantly as well. Trust me. I am so happy in who I am that I don't have time to kiss nobody's ass. So don't kiss ass to get along with no face, okay? So just let that be known. I know the dynamics of cause things to be a certain way, but as you get older and more mature and you become a grown-ass woman, that goes for me, that goes for you, this goes for everybody else out there, You're a grown-ass woman now, so you know exactly what you're doing. It's not like you could blame anybody else for it. It's not like you can say, oh, well, I don't like who she's with. I don't like who that. I don't like this, because that has nothing to do with us. One day, one day, a lot of times people look at the scenario when you actually get on your feet and stuff like that, and people come around. It's like, oh well, then they look at you and they say you're the one with the problem because you don't want anything to do with them anymore, or you're playing them cool now. It's a 20-foot pole you gotta reach to touch them with. So based on the universal laws, based on the hermetic laws, based on the laws of nature, right? I believe things change, things shift, things don't stay the same. Things are not stagnant, things are constantly moving. Things are constantly in motion. Energy is alive. So things are never going to stay the same. But I want to talk about these patterns that have been sticking and staying the same for so long. And I think it's time to break that shit. It's not time. If you have the whole world against you, at least you should have your family for you. You know what I mean? If you don't, fuck them. That's my bottom line. That's the message I want to send out today. All right? So anyway, peace out, guys. Namaste. Blessed be. And for all of you who struggle with the same problem, love and light. Love yourself. Grow yourself. Nourish your soul. Strengthen yourself. When I talk about psychic protection and stuff like that from energy like vampires or from dark forces and stuff like that, an evil eye and all that shit, that could be your own flesh and blood, darling. That's not just strangers out there walking around trying to pinpoint you and stuff like that. Those are people that know you more often than not. So remember that. Stay prayed up. Stay conscious. Keep your eyes open. Don't fall asleep. Don't be asleep. It's time to stay woke. All right? Thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And love and light, blessed be. Until I come back with another wonderful topic. Bye. And more often than not, nobody knows your story. Nobody's lived your life. Nobody's been through the pains and struggles that you've been through. Nobody understands it. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? So you don't have to explain anything to anybody. If you look at it, when you look at in hindsight, at your entire history, your entire book, that's so big so far, right? The trials and tribulations you've been through. Some people were fortunate enough to have certain things laid out for them in their lap. Sometimes it may be with a little trouble they have to get it, but for the most part, it was easy for them, or easier than others who did not have that. Some people grew up, like I said, without parents. Some people grew up in a home where there was no mother, no father, just people out there helping them out to get by, or by the grace of God and love of people's hearts, that people survived this far. So you don't have to explain anything to anybody. You don't owe anybody an apology. You don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't owe anybody, a lot of times, even sometimes the energy, because when they're living their lives, when they're doing what they do, whatever they do, in their free time or in their time, you don't know that. You don't care. They don't want you to know. A lot of times people would come sometimes, to a point where they're in the same space as you and they don't even want you to know. Like they actually run away. In a way, it's kind of a good feeling because it means you're that fucking scary. It means that they are that fearful of you that they can't even open their mouth to express how they feel because they fear your reaction. They fear that they look like the stupid ones. They fear, I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws here. But I think I'm onto something here. So don't hurt your head. Don't worry about it, because that actually is flattery. That's actually a compliment, if you ask me. I don't have time for drama. There's enough drama going on every day. Every day you just step outside and there's the drama. So you don't need to add drama to drama to drama. I bring my own drama. I'm the drama team. You know what I mean?